Still on capacitors, all of the axial ones, the ones like a barrel, and all of the radial ones, these ones that stand up on their feet, have been installed. And I'm now working on these feed-through capacitors. They are they're marked on the board as being EMI parts, electromagnetic interference parts, and as I understand them, the outside two legs are a dead short. That is to say, there's just a wire that runs right through. I'm going to focus my terrible thumbnail. From the outside to the outside is a straight short, and if I probe that with my multimeter in continuity beat mode, the most frequently used mode of any multimeter I would guesstimate, then so we're down to 1.2 ohms and falling, so it's definitely a short circuit, and it's a short circuit in both directions. Oh, I'm nearly off the side of the screen, sorry about that. Short circuit in both directions, so it's not like it's some sort of electrolytic capacitor or something. And from the center leg to either side is not a short circuit, but it is a capacitor. So that's 4 nanofarads that way, and 4 nanofarads that way, and 4 nanofarads that way, and 4 nanofarads that way. So, as I understand the way, what I understand, it's pretty lay. I'm not. But the signal from, say, a joystick port passes right through this in one side and out the other via a dielectric which is connected back to Earth. So any high frequency, this must be I'm assuming it's a ceramic capacitor. It's non-polarized. So as the signal moves through this, there is an opportunity for any high frequency noise to be coupled onto this center leg and taken down to ground. So this one is 3,300 puff picofarads, 3,300, and that's EMI 209 according to my bomb. And if I, on my computer over here that you can't see, scroll down to EMI 309. So EMI 209. EMI 209. I see that it is right up here. I really don't want to drop one of these. I wouldn't even know how to order one. I imagine you just get them on Element 14 or wherever you getting spot is, just like everything else. But and that says 3,300 puff on the thing, and my nanofarad measurements a moment ago were just rough. And for some reason this one right out on the far side here, 209. Yep, that's what the plans say. So I've just been snipping these off like so and fitting them in. There's some writing on one side and on the other, it's hard to see. Just pop them in. There's only one of those, so I will hold it with my finger, as my favourite YouTuber says with his German accent, his finger. His English is beautiful. Just give them a little bit of a bend, and I might see if I can zoom in on this. There are some settings. Yeah, so you're working there. I'll switch over to my magnifying glasses from the pharmacy or wherever I got them. They're not very strong. They're 1.5 times. They make it so I can focus in closer and see things bigger. And we will check this out now. The middle leg, because it's connected to earth, requires a lot more heat. Oh, my soldering iron is off. The middle leg, because it's connected to earth, requires a lot more heat, and you can see it on the board. You can see this runs through here down the centre, and one great long bus. But the other legs are not such heat sinks. I was watching a video at the recommendation of a friend the other night from a YouTuber called Gadget UK 2 something something, and it was wonderful to watch someone who was clearly skillful do their soldering and cope with the huge variation in iron temperatures and time on board that follows from whether or not there's a lot of thermal mass. Definitely recommended viewing. So this one here is probably going to need the least. So, but it got very thick leads, and I suspect a lot of things, don't I? I suspect that the reason they've got such long leads, I'll just flip this and have a little look, see? Oh, it's lovely. I can snip him off. Probably a bit too short, but that's how I like it. I don't remember what I was talking about. Anyway, getting the right amount of heat is very subjective. Well, it's not. I'm sure it can be calculated, but oh yeah, these components have quite heavy legs. There's too much solder there. Have quite heavy legs, and my guess is that it is so that the component can provide a very low impedance path to earth via the capacitor. Very low impedance path to ground. When people say impedance, they often mean resistance, and I think in this case I probably actually mean resistance. But impedance and resistance are not the same thing. Impedance can have nothing to do with electrical resistance whatsoever. For example, a loudspeaker. If you measure the resistance of the voice coil of a loudspeaker, that's an 8 ohm nominal speaker, it'll measure at about 4 ohms, but anything trying to move that speaker will see a higher resistance, if you will, because of the mechanical motion of the driver. It doesn't move freely, and the higher the frequency that the driver is operated with, most drivers, that the higher the impedance becomes, up to a point where it's difficult to apply power at all. But again, the electrical resistance of the voice coil does not dominate. What dominates is the mechanical characteristics of the driver. That's lovely. I'm really excited to be onto these. The capacitors, there were I think over 200 of them. They're scattered everywhere. There's a big row down here, all through. But now I'm starting on these EMI things, and I don't think they have polarity. Before I solder in a whole lot more, I might make a quick check with a friend, but I'm satisfied that they are equivalent to 2 ceramic capacitors, save for the fact that's not how they're built and not how they work. But if it was 2 ceramic capacitors sharing 3 holes, they wouldn't have polarity about them either. But I think what they've done is, and there's some interesting drawings online, there's like a horseshoe shape for the outer pins, and then there's the structure of the capacitor, and the center leg just comes out and down to ground. And of course a capacitor will pass AC, electromagnetic interference will be AC, or it won't propagate. You know, you have a changing electrical field which produces a changing magnetic field which produces a changing electric field, and so on and so on and so on through space. And that's electromagnetic radiation, everything from, you know, light to cooking your food to listening to the radio. So if the board is trying to send out high frequency noise, then it can, because it'll be AC, it can pass back through these components and be sent back to ground. And I have heard of some redesigns of some old boards deleting a lot of these components. I may be wrong. There's more here for the joystick ports. I may be wrong, but what I understand to be the case is that requirements around electromagnetic interference radiation from computer gear used to be quite severe compared to the way they are now, and I think at the time they were pretty much the only source of interference in that part of the spectrum, and no doubt things like televisions and stuff weren't designed to reject it properly, and so on and so on and so on. But yes, my hypothesis is that I could bridge the outer pins with a piece of wire and not worry about these fellows, but I don't know, might throw me into breach of some sort of law as well. Anyway, now installing these feed-through capacitors, which are marked EMI on the board, and unless I'm horribly mistaken, they are not polarized.